When Auburn went and claimed 7 new national titles in 2025, I made a video on it and how legit I feel each one of those were. And then, of course, Alabama came to mind. Then I started to wonder, who else is worth a deeper look? My answer? Everyone. So that's exactly what the hell I'm going to do. I'm doing a video on every team that has ever claimed a national championship. Let's get chronic. Prior to the college football playoffs and BCS national title game, we relied only on the polls to determine the national champion, despite the Bowl Coalition's attempts to better things for a few years. The polling system failed many times, with as many as 4 to 6 teams in contention that never even played each other. This often resulted in many split national championship years. Go back a few more years to 1965. Prior to that year, some polls voted on their national champions before the bowl games were even played and then saw their champion lose the final game. Go back even further. In 1936, the AP poll is created and is often the most respected poll for many years to come. But prior to that, we have a wild, lawless 67 years of college football where many or no teams called themselves national champions, and a lot of these teams didn't claim national titles in this era until more modern polls and systems went back and retroactively named them national champions. Confused yet? You should be. While the AP poll is often the benchmark for a champion from 1936 to 1998, I would still argue that point. If the AP named you champion and nobody else did, that smells a bit fishy. Personally, I tend to side with what a majority of the polls say. So if the AP poll says you are the champ, but like 11 others don't, I rethink the situation. And that's just me. You are free to do or think whatever you like.
Jerry, just remember, it's not a lie if you believe it.
And of course, any titles won through the playoffs or BCS national title game are automatically 100% legit from the start of the video, even if you disagree with the selection committee. And on the flip side, any that claim a separate title outside of those parameters are ultimately complete bullshit, whether the selection committee screwed that team or not. History is history, and I respect that fact. For the purposes of this channel, I'm only going to go by what the school actually claims. I have broken my tiers into 4 sections: 100% legit, debatable but fair, I see your argument but no, and then just complete bullshit. Now that I've done a video on all the teams that claim one, we move up to the 2s, which I have decided to group into 2 videos with 3 teams each. For no particular reason, let's start with Stanford. If you only follow recent college football, you might be surprised to learn that Stanford had any success outside of the Andrew Luck or Christian McCaffrey years, and you wouldn't be entirely wrong. The Cardinal had their best run in program history from the mid-1920s to 1940, and that's where both titles will take us. And not only that, but these 2 teams will be the Stanford Indians. The first year Stanford claims is 1926 under legendary head coach Pop Warner. The Indians went undefeated through the regular season and then tied Alabama 7-7 in the 13th Rose Bowl to finish 10-0-1. Now, if you followed this series at all, you might remember that I touched on 1926 once already with Navy's claim. If that's the case, this next part will probably sound familiar. If not, here's the rundown. Along with Stanford and Alabama, Lafayette went 9-0 with dominant performances. Navy went 9-0-1, tying only Army. One system even named Michigan as champs retroactively, but the Wolverines lost to Navy, and they don't even claim it. For a breakdown of my thoughts on Navy, please go check out that other video. For the purposes of this video, we can push them and Lafayette aside for now, as the Leopards will be analyzed with the teams that claim 3 titles. Most agree that the 1926 title belongs to Stanford or Alabama, and well, we settled the debate on the field in the Rose Bowl, but as I said, it actually didn't settle anything. Alabama scored late in the 4th quarter after blocking a punt deep in Indian territory at the 14-yard line. The option to go for Dose would not come for another 32 years, and there would be no overtime for another 70. We got a tie between arguably the best 2 teams that season in the final game. There's not much opinion I can give here, but instead of going 100% on both teams, I think I feel safer going debatable but fair. Because both teams have their own arguments and certain title selectors on their side, it really is just an even split, and that is the instigator of the debate. The Indians claimed their most recent national title in 1940 under a lesser-known but still legendary head coach Clark Shaughnessy. This team went 10-0 and beat number 19 Washington State, number 17 USC, number 11 Washington, number 19 Oregon State, and put the cherry on top of the season with a 21-13 win over number 7 Nebraska in the Rose Bowl. That is quite the resume if I do say so myself. The Indians were named national champion by multiple selectors, but Minnesota got the almighty AP vote along with many others. Remember when I said in the intro that I usually respect the AP and the majority in most cases, especially in the early days? Well, this is one of the more rare cases, and I actually am not going to go against them, so put your pitchforks down. Minnesota went 8-0 and beat 3 ranked teams and did not play in a bowl. In my opinion, it is hard to discredit Stanford, who beat 5 ranked teams and played 2 more games. While I won't give my full thoughts on Minnesota until their video comes, Stanford did enough for me to say they are 100% legit. And before you ask why 1926 was debatable but not this one, it is because we had our clash of the Titans that season and came out with a tie. In 1940, we had 2 Titans who never clashed at all, had similar records and tough schedules with big wins each. Therefore, I view the two as separate but equal, which is a spoiler for Minnesota, but that's okay. The Chicago Maroons are today in Division III, but were formerly a staple and founding member of the Big Ten Conference. They even won 7 conference titles there, which equals the total of current-day members Penn State, Indiana, Oregon, Nebraska, Maryland, Rutgers, Washington, USC, and UCLA combined. Yeah, I know. Most of them haven't been in the conference very long at all, but still. Chicago's first claim came in 1905 under yet another legendary head coach, Amos Alonzo Stagg. The team went 11-0, and look, one of those was against a high school, and 3 more came against very small schools today, but this was common at the time, and they also beat some good teams too. They shut out every team except a 16-5 win over Indiana. Yale also went undefeated at 10-0, and also shut out every team but one, and one of their wins was against the YMCA, also not uncommon at the time. Neither team played a common opponent, and likely the 2 teams never even crossed each other's minds. Both teams had multiple selectors name them champs at some point across history. I see this one as 100% legit, especially since their final game was a win over Michigan, who was deep in the midst of a dynasty, having won at least a share of the last 4 previous titles. Chicago also claims 1913. The Maroons went 7-0 in a schedule made up entirely of modern-day Big Ten teams, again under the coaching of Stagg. Auburn claims this one as one of its new titles, in which I called it debatable but fair. Please go check out that video for more info on them. And then Harvard also claims this one because, of course they do. But at 9-0, playing some of the best teams around, I can't blame them. While all 3 of them have more than one selector and a great case, Harvard seems to have a slight edge by all accounts. This shouldn't really discredit Chicago enough to say this one isn't legit. Let's go ahead and put this one at debatable but fair. Washington. Before we start, I will remind you that we aren't touching the unclaimed titles in this series, but I do plan to do a separate series that may end up covering it later on. In 1960, Washington dropped their 3rd game to number 17 Navy 15-14 to take a huge hit on their number 3 ranking. Now sitting at 12th, the Huskies won out, including wins over number 15 UCLA 10-8, 18 Oregon State 30-29, and finally a 17-7 win over number 1 Minnesota in the Rose Bowl to finish the season ranked 6th, as we run into another case of not releasing a ranking after the bowl games. Only the Helms Foundation named them champs. Again, I'll save deeper details for some of these other schools for their own videos. But Minnesota, who got the AP vote at 8-2, Ole Miss at 10-0-1, and Iowa at 8-1 also all claimed the championship this season. Now, Ole Miss is the only team here without a loss. However, tying LSU, who went on to be 5-4-1, isn't the greatest look for them, but finishing at number 2 is respectable. By that same token, Washington losing by only a point to a ranked Navy team is somewhat more respectable. Washington also beat more ranked teams, including number 1 Minnesota. So while Washington didn't get the respect of the AP, this is a rare year where I completely disagree with them anyways. Washington, I see you as debatable but fair for 1960, and I was close to considering you 100% legit. But there's some good arguments for other teams, so I ultimately couldn't. And finally, the 1991 Washington Huskies team. And right off the bat, this one is going to be a tough call, so I'm going to try and weigh many angles to be as fair as I can be. The Huskies started off ranked pretty high at number 4 after a 10-2 1990 season. They proceeded to beat everyone in the regular season with key wins over number 9 Nebraska and number 7 Colorado to enter the Rose Bowl ranked number 2. In that game, number 4 Michigan bowed down to Washington 34-14 as the Huskies finished a perfect 12-0. They were named national champions most notably by the National Football Foundation, the Football Writers Association of America, and the Coaches Poll. Here's the thing, the AP national champion was Miami. The Hurricanes were also a perfect 12-0 after beating number 11 Nebraska 22-0 in the Orange Bowl. Compared to Washington's 3 ranked wins, Miami had 4, and they were arguably more impressive. Let's compare the two as best we can for fun before I label it though. Both teams dominated, with Washington only having 2 close games and Miami having 3. We also have a couple of common opponents. Washington beat Nebraska 36-21 early in the season, while Miami beat them 22-0 in the bowl game. Washington beat Arizona 54-0 and Miami won 36-9 only a week apart. That comparison honestly doesn't tell me anything, just makes them seem very even. Let me know if you had a different thought. Ultimately, I view 1991 Washington as 100% legit, and had this happened 7 years later, the two would have just settled it on the field in the BCS title game. But here, we just had two equally deserving teams who are just going to have to coexist for all of history. If you made me pick who I think would have won hypothetically, I'd probably give Miami a slight edge on a neutral field. And there we go. If you feel I was unfair or missed a piece of info, go ahead and make your case in the comments. And remember, this is just one guy on YouTube who did some research and gave an opinion. I'm sure I won't change any fan base's opinions on the titles they choose to boast about, and UCF fans have made that pretty clear thus far. This has been College Football Chronicles, and I hope you join me next time.